All right, welcome back into another episode of Indiebnb. Today we are joined by AJ Eustace from the beautiful Columbus, Ohio area. AJ, how are you on this evening?
I am doing pretty well. Thank you, Grant. How about you?
I'm doing great, So, ready to, dive in a little bit on, some of your tunes here. I've been, kind of floating around, getting a feel for you, once you signed up with us. So, been excited to kind of dive in a few of them. But, for you, like, how'd you get in touch with us? I saw you mentioned Miss Manhattan before. So, take me through like how you found our little program here.
Yeah, of course. So it was Miss Manhattan. She and I actually record at the same studio here in Columbus. It's called Moonlight Audio. The two engineers, producers there, Joe Amadio and then James Harker, they're really great to work with. And as someone who had never been in a recording studio as of January in 2023, and like really only knew how to play an instrument, but not really how to record music properly, they really made it like great for me as a new artist to get my feet wet and like understand the process and kind of meet me where I was in my musical journey. So they've been really supportive. And then through them, I've got connections with so many different, really unique and really cool artists here in Columbus. So that's how I came in touch with you guys.
Love that. I love that, man. Well, shout out Moonlight Audio, shout out Miss Manhattan for putting us in touch. I mean, love the album from last year. Gotten to kind of dive in a little bit, as we did the the prep for this one, and want to hear from you. Just like you have it's got a pretty unique name, and would love to talk through like Ever the Optimist. Like, what does that mean to you? What why'd you choose that?
I chose that to kind of be funny because like I come across as this like quiet, dour, kind of like shy guy. Like I'm basically Dollar from Game of Thrones in real life. And I chose that name to be ironic because I like to joke around that there's no such thing as a love song in my discography. And you could hardly say that any of the songs are even happy. So like I was playing around with that, and it was really, I took that concept, Ever the Optimist, and was really kind of making an album of bleak, kind of slightly pessimistic, but maybe some room for hope, like that little light at the end of the tunnel, and like playing around with that theme for the album. And a lot of it's about really the last 2 years of my life and just how chaotic in some ways that they were, and like all the lessons that I gleaned from those, from like a whole host of themes, like dealing with mental health and starting to go to therapy for the first time, which has really been a big help for me. Dealing with the fallout of some kind of broken relationships, like stuff with family and stuff with old romances, old friends, and things that just kind of fell apart. And just what lessons did I learn from those experiences, and like what did I learn about myself as a person, and how am I attempting to grow from those and attempting to learn from those, sometimes more successfully than others. And I think that struggle and that trying to improve yourself and sometimes not always succeeding, I think that's like one of the main themes of the album.
Nice. I mean, I think like that's true for many folks. And, I think that, as they listen into the lyrics, like they'll be able to definitely identify, some themes in that and be able to get it, pick it out from the album. Like, now, are you is this, is music background for you? Like, talk to me about like, are you new? You mentioned you're a new artist, but like, it doesn't sound like, from the music at least, that you are very new to creating and doing music. So, what's your background? Like, where do you come from in the, kind of that sphere?
Yeah, of course. So I have played guitar for, I want to say 13, 14 years at this point. I started when I was around 9 years old. And I was just like, when you're at that age, you just want to play your favorite. Like I grew up on classic rock. You just want to play your favorite songs. And the ultimate achievement to me was being able to be on stage and sing and play at the same time, which I used to think was impossible. And you get over that hump and you're like, this is so cool. I want to be a rock star one day. And then you realize that you have to practice, and that kind of takes some of the enthusiasm out of it in some ways. But I kept at it for a long time. And then honestly, the first time they ever really stopped was in college. Part of it was just not having enough space in my dorm freshman year to keep all my instruments. And then part of it was COVID. And like, having joined this music club, because I went to school at the University of Virginia, having joined this like club for live performances and like learning about recording, and really not even being able to do any of it for about a year and a half, because they had either kept us at home or they had brought us back, but basically nothing was open. So I really didn't dive back into it until my last year of college, and like just getting back in and like rediscovering my love of performing, my love of composing again, which I had written songs that were kind of just one-offs here and there. The first song I ever wrote was one that I actually kind of regret, because it was a song about a girl that I liked in the 7th grade, and like being the idiot that I was, I performed that at the talent show. So that didn't go as well, but I kind of kept those songs. It was like, someday, a few years from now, I'm going to write something better than this. That's like actually an artistic achievement, and not just, oh my God, you're so cute, I love you. And I kind of picked it back up, and I had this band that I formed with some friends of mine. And then we were, like any college band is mostly going to play a cover set, especially when you got to fill 3 hours of time. But I eventually started working in more and more of my originals, and I started becoming more confident in like my ability as a songwriter. And I was graduating at that point, so I knew at that point that I was going to move out from Connecticut to Columbus for some work-related stuff. And I thought, okay, I'm going to get out there, and I'm going to, after a brief period, got to get settled in, but then I'm going to like really explore this some more, because I kind of like rediscovered my passion for that, like the performing and the writing and the composing in my time at UVA. And I started with just a couple of songs. Midnight, the first song on the album, was actually one of them. And I had taken that, like that old 7th grade talent show song, and I used to joke that was really simple, because that entire song was effectively just 2 chords. And I just took that and added a third, and just like went through like the descending progression, then going back up, and just kind of working through that, like in a way, kind of easy listening type of melody, but then throwing some more complicated lyrics, like some more dense stuff thematically on top of that, and then just playing around with the different textures. It's like we went to the studio and we were adding like these crazy. I remember James, he did a lot of lead guitar work, and he was adding like these crazy fuzz tones on top of it, and then all these like really cool, intricate synth parts. I'm like, this is me. This is my style. Like because thinking about how that song evolved, like it used to be rhythm guitar, bass, drums, and one vocal, and that was it. And just being in the studio and exploring that more, and just building on that, and like figuring out who I was as an artist, I think that was like one of the most rewarding experiences of my life.
Wow.
Yeah, I started with that one song, and then it just kind of, spiraled from there. I never had any designs on recording an album so soon into being an artist. That was kind of just a decision that was like, maybe I'll do this 5 years from now, but for now I just want to like get my feet wet. And then I started recording. I'm like, no, I like this too much. I don't want to stop. So that one song turned into 2, and then 4, and then I was basically just like, screw it, we're doing an album now.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, so what, like, you don't think about how COVID affected, something like that, where, we could have had, I guess you look at where you are now, and it's like, man, if I had those 2 years, or had those, 2 to 3 years between the time, that we were, at home, like in that club, like, what do you think you could have cultivated? Right. Like, so it kind of feels like we were robbed of a little bit of AJ Eustace there. Like, I mean, it feels we got gypped a little bit, but now I'm glad you're making up for lost time, and you got the enthusiasm to get in the studio and start making some stuff here. And like, within that, like obviously Midnight, like that's crazy. It was born from a song you did in 7th grade, and you kind of birthed it into something new. Like,
Yeah.
For When You're Rich and Famous, like that's our song spotlight for the day. Like, what did you kind of go into that? Like, how did that one was that something that was an older song that you wrote before, or that one was straight up, hey, I wrote it, then we went in the studio and laid it down and tinkered around with it?
Yeah, of course. So that one, I believe it was a relatively new like song for me. In that, when I say new song, I mean basically anything that I had started writing in Columbus that didn't have anything like inspiring it beforehand. Like it wasn't an older song. And I want to say it was like September of 2022 was probably my most productive month as a songwriter ever. I want to say at least 5, maybe 6 of the songs that ended up on the finished album come from those sessions. And When You're Rich and Famous was one of them. I think I was messing around on an acoustic guitar at that point, because it was late, and like my apartment was on the 3rd floor, and I didn't want to disturb anybody, but I had an idea, and I was like just playing around with these chords. And like, I guess my style of playing guitar is like a hybrid rhythm and lead components. Like I was messing around with those chords, And then at the end of every line, I was just changing one note. So it's like you have that D minor going in the beginning, da 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 da, like drop it down to that E, and then just keep changing like subtle little things and like kind of crafting a hybrid rhythm and melody part to it. And that's how I got the music for that song. I just kind of grew it from there. And then lyrically, I'm actually not sure I'd had the concept for the album yet, but this particular song, one of the things I like to do is write from the perspectives of other characters. So very, very few of the lyrics in that song are actually sung by me, by AJ. And the ones that are, honestly, the kind of backing vocals that are tucked in like lower in the mix. But the main singer is actually, like, I imagine writing this from my mom's perspective, actually, because the title "When You're Rich and Famous" is actually something that she used to say to me and my brother and sister when we were kids, just like, that joking tone when your parents are like, "Oh, I'm so proud of you, like you're going to go places. When you're rich and famous, will you buy me like a fancy house, a nice car," stuff like that, like really kind of lighthearted. And I took that concept and that phrase, "When you're rich and famous," and that really stuck with me, and kind of twisted it a little bit into thinking like, what if this is bleaker? What if this is not like, a parent's thinking about their kid who's grown up, they graduated college, and now they've moved further away, and like just thinking, are you still taking care of yourself? Like, like what's going on in your head? What's going on in your life? And it's like not necessarily caring when you're rich and famous, like, are you even going to get there? Like, what is being rich and famous to most people? What is it to me? Like, do I want to be a millionaire someday, or do I just want to like be happy? Like, do I want to live a life that I can say I'm pleased with and that I've done something meaningful? And just kind of playing around with that theme in the song.
I love that. I mean, I think the perspective of like, are you taking care of yourself? That mom kind of feel, everybody has experienced that and can definitely identify, and like everyone has had that. That phrase has been said to me as well. Hey, when you're rich and famous, don't forget me. That's and I say it to everybody who comes on this show. So AJ, when you're rich and famous, please don't forget us. Don't forget that we have this one here. Well, that's awesome, man. I mean, like, obviously going in, you had a lot of momentum, and, you start, you kind of bowl out this album here. Like, when you're creating the album, like, what is the, thought process on live sets? Like, obviously you have the experience being in the cover band, and like, you've done that, whole entire, time with a band, but, being just on your own, like when you're creating something on your own, like, how do you kind of project that? Or, if you're going to do a live set, how are you going to do it? Like, what's the, how are you planning those things?
Yeah, of course. So I think with my style of music, and I tend to describe it, and at least my producer, Joe, tends to describe it as art rock. I think one of the main things for me is going into it and knowing that I'm trying to build a piece of music that is pretty dense in terms of the production. There's God knows how many synth parts and piano and stuff like that. And then the guitars in some areas can be pretty layered. Midnight and When You're Rich and Famous being a couple of those examples. And knowing that unless I have 10 or 12 people on stage with me, it's going to be impossible to play it note for note. So I think the main thing is just don't try to recreate the song, but try to capture some of that like same spirit, the energy behind it. And then when you're in the studio, in a way that approach is kind of liberating, because you don't have to worry about like, okay, I can only have a one rhythm guitar and one, maybe two lead parts. Like I'm not necessarily writing an album that is easy to play live. It's going to be really hard to play live, but in a way that kind of frees me up creatively to be like, I'm just going to record a good album. And if that means it's difficult to play live, at least entirely recreate it, so be it. It's more about like crafting that piece of music that is really well produced and like it's really fully fleshed out for me. I'd say it's a big thing. And then as for the live performance, I just like to have fun with it. Like I was saying earlier, when I'm not performing music, I tend to be a little bit shy, and I kind of like, I honestly kind of approach performing as like, why not just mess with people? Like, why not have this alter ego on stage that's just like a lot more expressive and outgoing, especially now, because in a lot of my older performances, it was just a trio with me being one of them. And I would play guitar, like rhythm and lead for the entire set. And I kind of felt stuck. Like I had to stay at the mic the entire time. I couldn't really move around as much as I would like. Now I have another guitarist. His name is Eric, and Eric is really good with understanding my like sonic direction and what I want the guitars to sound like live. And he frees me up to kind of just be a singer, wireless mic, and just roam around on stage, go do some crowd work, just like interact with people more, and like bringing a whole new kind of energy into it. That's something that I've really enjoyed. And then just being like, you know, before a show, I can be really quiet and just like, I am laser focused. I can't be distracted right now. I'm just like zeroing in. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get on stage. I'm going to do my thing and I'm going to do it well. And it's like, it's kind of funny because some people will come up to me and be like, dude, are you okay? Like, I feel like you're about to spontaneously combust. Like, you're just like a nervous wreck and I don't know what's going to set you off. And I honestly heard that at my album release show, actually in August. And I was like, that's kind of funny. And now I'm just going to surprise them when like I get on stage, just like, if this is passive AJ, I just want to be an animal. You know, I want to surprise people. And then as soon as the last song is over, I'm like, thank you, good night. Well, check me out on Spotify. And I'll just like immediately go back to, okay, now we're back to quiet, shy AJ.
Wow.
And then that same person, it was actually my bassist Brandon, his dad came to the show, and his dad was a musician himself. And he's like, I have never seen somebody go from quiet, like Spock mode almost, if you like Star Trek, to wild animal right back to Spock mode at the end of the show. And I was like, I take that and I will wear that as a badge of honor. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, if that's exactly what you're going for, I love that. I mean, I think, you know, you can liken it to, you know, somebody just getting ready for, you know, a big test or a big production. Like, you want to get all the details right. You're going over what you're, you know, going to do in your head probably 50 times. And like, you know, you're just locked in. I mean, that's nothing new to that I've ever, you know, not heard. But I love that there's a juxtaposition where you just like, as soon as the show's over, you're back to just business like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You know, generally people are, you know, still kind of like, you know, I've talked to a lot of bands after their sets. I'm like, man, I love your set. They're great. They're like, oh man, thank you so much. Like, you know, they're kind of the same personality, but I love that you got a little bit of like, hey, I'm that guy on the stage, but off the stage, like, I'm not that guy. Like, I'm a performer. And you truly get, like, it's truly more of a performance than anything else, because you're kind of going out of your, you know, a little bit out of your element on that, and then, you know, getting back in your element right after.
Oh, definitely. I just love to have fun with it. You know, that's the main thing for me.
Yeah. I mean, like you mentioned crowd work. I mean, what are we talking about here? Are we getting in the crowd? Are we doing some surfing, or like, what's the main move, I guess, for the animal?
I wish. I'm so afraid of like cracking my skull if I try to go for it, and like, I don't know if it's later at night, not as many people are there. It's just like crack, and like, well, there goes my performing career. Like I remember at the album show, I mostly stuck to the stage, but I was like moving around more and like trying to do that. Like, I don't know. I must have seen the Queen at Live Aid performance a million times, like just doing some of those like hand motions that Freddie always used to do. I remember just kind of on impulse, I was playing one of the album tracks, Egomaniac, and it's like this really fast, upbeat kind of 80s REM inspired alternative rock song. It's by far the fastest song on the album. So like I tried to have some fun with that, and I was matching the tempo in the middle of that solo, because like I didn't have to sing anything. It's just like, oh, you can just like throw in some antics and like see if anyone remembers it the next day, you know. And like, I don't know why, I had never even heard the entirety of Hot to Go at that point, but like I knew the dance from TikTok, and I was just like, fuck it, like like trying to match the tempo, and then I just do it. And then I see my friends, one of my friends in the audience in the front row is like, oh my God, did he just do that? And I'm like, yes, I did. Close my eyes, like immediately go back to singing.
That's awesome. You get to pop in with little Easter eggs every now and then, get people talking. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that, man. Well, you know, as you've gotten the album out, is there a tour? Is there kind of what's the follow up like, you know, as we get in here and we're well into 25 here, like what's that look like for AJ Eustace?
Yeah, of course. So I'm actually in the process right now of trying to get the second album like conceptualized, and like I have a better idea of how to work in a studio now, and like what my working process is like. So I think I'll be better prepared this time around. Like I truly say, you hear everybody say, oh, this album is going to be even better. It's going to be a next step up. I really do believe that
Yeah.
for this next album. Like I can conceptualize it more because I tried my best, and I'm very like proud of the job that I did with Ever the Optimist. And like I think that concept kind of came together pretty well, but that wasn't exactly how I was approaching it in the beginning. I was just had a collection of songs and then kind of realized that they had a common theme and then started tweaking some things and then made it into this cohesive record. This time I can go in with like a clear concept. I want this second album to be like more frantic, to be more like chaotic, but a controlled kind of chaos, you know? Like I want this to still carry a lot of those art rock textures on top of it, like a really percussive synth, some weird chord progressions, like playing around with the tempo and the signature a little bit. So like it will still be an AJ Eustace record, but thematically it's going to be more frantic, more chaotic. Like if I described that first album as like a look at like, you know, all the experiences I've had in the last 2 years and like how I've grown from that, I want the second album to be like, this is here, this is like now, and this is really chaotic and you don't know what's going on. Like I want the album to feel like a panic attack, if that makes any sense.
Love that. I love that. What do you think? Like, what song on your, you know, of the Ever the Optimist, like, would you say, like, as you've begun writing, like, is going to be, you know, a comp to something you might hear on the new one? Like, would Egomaniac be that, where it's like a little bit more upbeat and like, you know, what would be the one song that if we were going to tell our listeners, hey, this is what you should expect from that second album, go follow him on Spotify so you can make sure you're there when he releases it. What is that song?
Yeah, of course. That's a good question. It's honestly kind of tough because I feel like the more I've even listened back to it, it's just like I kind of wrote like a really like intricate self-reflective record, but aside from Egomaniac, it's kind of slow. Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the songs are like kind of sluggish. But if I had to pick one just on the tempo, it'd be Egomaniac for sure. And then in terms of like the creative inspiration, I would say probably take the middle song of the album, More Than a Little Strange, like that kind of idea of like, you know, looking at a person's like innermost thoughts and like what makes them tick, what makes them anxious, what makes them panicking, what sends people into a spiral, you know, and just like taking that and turning everything up to 11 in terms of like the rhythm of it and like the style of the music and the lyrical content. So take an Egomaniac tempo with a More Than a Little Strange lyrical mix, and then throw in some characteristic like David Bowie type of weirdness in there, and that's what the album's gonna sound like.
I mean, if that doesn't sell it, I don't know what does. I mean, we're getting just some up tempo, we're getting some, you know, weirdness, and we're getting Bowie in there combined. So I mean, it's going to be awesome. So, you know, what's the timeline? When can we expect it? You know, it sounds like we're conceptualizing. So, you know, maybe it's an early 26 or is it a late, you know, 25? What's your, obviously, you know, you can't rush greatness, but like, what do you think, you know, as you get a single out or something like that?
Yeah, of course. So I think, especially with like how intense that recording process was for the first album, and like I was very happy that I was able to get it out in the time frame that I did, like August of last year. But if there's one thing that I have to keep in mind, is like making an album is not cheap. You know,
Yeah.
like just making sure to handle everything logistically and from a financial perspective. And the city of Columbus is pretty great about like having the Greater Columbus Arts Council here and like a bunch of different small artist grants that help people in like my situation with recording, whether it's an individual song or like trying to get a piece together. So I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity that I can. But I'm probably thinking that 2025 would be a lighter year for me. I might try to do like one kind of sneak peek type of single to signal like, well, you enjoyed Ever the Optimist. Well, too bad, because now we're moving in a different direction. Like, you know, kind of throwing it in their face. Like, you enjoyed that so much, but now we're moving on. This is the new direction. And like kind of having a preview of that sounds. And then I was thinking maybe a cover. It's like 2 songs total this year, 1 original, 1 cover. With that cover, honestly, in all likelihood, being a Bowie song, just like something that kind of stylistically is reminiscent of what I'm going to write on the second album. Probably my favorite Bowie album of all time is The Next Day, 2013. That was one that I actually got in my sophomore year of high school, one of my classmates gave that to me as a Secret Santa gift. And that
Hmm.
was the first Bowie first album period that I had just listened to front to back. And I just kept going through it and like, you know what? I grew up on greatest hits. I grew up on classic rock. And this is something that's very different. And that's like, that was probably the first time that I discovered, like, if I ever want to do this, this is the direction that I'm going to go. Like this style of chaotic
Wow.
art rock. But yeah, we'll probably do one, maybe two songs this year. Maybe try to like roll it out as like I don't know, if I want to do another 10, 11 song record, maybe do like 4, 5 of them as an EP in 2026 and then work up to the full album release in 2027. I'm like trying to be methodical about it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, certainly. I mean, I'm sure it's, obviously the lot of logistics that go into it. So I think, I love the plan. I love the vision, and, it could come quicker, it could come earlier, it depends on a lot of different things, I'm sure. So, speaking of chaos, we'll roll into a little bit of Pete Peterson's party pack of questions. These are 20 rapid fire questions right in a row. AJ Eustace, are you ready?
I'm going to do my best. Let's go for it.
Right, here we go. Cake or pie?
Pie, chocolate cream specifically.
All right. Salad or soup?
Soup and wonton soup.
Wonton soup. All right. Sunrise or sunset? What are you seeing more of these days?
Sunset, especially with daylight savings. It looks beautiful out around 7 o'clock.
I tell you what, I'm now golden hour Grant. I love the golden hour, man. That is, I live for that. So, would you rather hit a home run or score a touchdown?
Home run. I honestly don't like football.
All right, fair enough. Night in or night out? What are you having more of these days?
Night in.
Night in. All right. When you do go out, though, and your jam comes on at the club or wherever you're at, are you more likely to hit the robot or the worm?
I'm more likely to hit the have a glass of Chardonnay and do whatever dance comes to mind. I am not a dancer by any stretch of the imagination.
All right. Fair enough. A nice Chardonnay. Yeah, maybe we get a little like shoulder shake with the Chardonnay. We never know. I like that. All right. Guac or queso at your favorite Tex-Mex spot?
Queso.
All right. Getting cheese in there. All right. Waffles or pancakes?
That's a tough one, but I'm going to have to say waffles.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Dogs or cats?
Cats.
Cats. You identify more of the ninja or a pirate?
I would probably say pirate.
Pirate. Gatorade or Powerade?
Gatorade. I don't think I've ever had Powerade, actually, but Gatorade.
All right. Toast or bagels?
Bagels, especially if it's at that Brugger's, like New York style place. I love that place.
Love that. All right. Chips or pretzels?
I'm going to say chips.
Chips, more versatile. I like it. Fries or tots?
Fries.
All right. After a long day, TV show or a movie to unwind?
I'm going to say TV show. I love doing my like Sopranos and Breaking Bad type of rewatches.
Love that. All right. Are aliens real?
Yes, and it's just taking a frustratingly long time to find them.
Yeah. What about Bigfoot?
Nah.
Nope. Is love at first sight real?
No, I don't think so. I'm not that optimistic.
All right. Give us 2 artists that we might not know that we ought to check out. It can be from Columbus, can be just people you've been listening to.
Yep.
Give me 2 people.
All right. I'll go one throwback. They're a group from the 1980s, I think. And the genre is like something weird. It's called like Paisley Underground, but it's The Rain Parade. And the song that I absolutely love is called Kaleidoscope. And it's basically like what if 1960s folk inspired like harmonies had survived into the electronic era. They take a lot of inspiration from the Byrds, I think. But that one song, Kaleidoscope by The Rain Parade, is absolutely brilliant. I think I just discovered it randomly at one point in my last year of college. I'm like, how have I never heard this before?
Yeah.
And then I'll go with the local for the second one. They're this electronic alternative pop group in Columbus called Vitruvian Soul. They put on one of the best live shows I've ever seen, and that is not an exaggeration. Like they have it almost feels more like you're going to a musical than you're going to like a band's performance. Like they have the lights and like everyone's in character, everyone's in a costume. Like they even have like these like inter-song transitions that make it seem like it's like a whole cohesive story. Like you're literally watching a musical and everything is so well produced and so well thought out. But yeah, that band Vitruvian Soul is just absolutely brilliant.
All right, Vitruvian
Vitruvian.
I am. All right, Vitruvian Soul. I love
Yep.
that. All right, we'll have to check that out. So Rain Parade and Vitruvian Soul, check them out. Those are AJ Eustace, stamp of approval artists that he's digging on. So the last question, kind of the similar vein, but I've been asking people to take out their, whatever they stream music on and share with us their last search. So if it's Spotify, what's your last search on your Spotify? So
All right.
I'll do the same as as per tradition. But go ahead, give me what your last search was on your streaming.
All right, let me see. Oh yes, it was The Ballad of John and Yoko by the Beatles. So I'm planning on doing an open mic performance with a couple of my friends. One of whom is actually in my backing bands, but like my other friend owns a coffee shop and like she hosts open mics all the time. And like we're trying to get back into the swing of things and like we're trying to figure out what songs to play. And that one has always stood out to me as like it was a number one hit, sure, but among number one hits and among Beatles songs, probably pretty underrated. But I just absolutely love it. So that I was listening to that and I was like, this song's pretty good. I should check this one out more. And like I immediately sent that to the group and like, let's do this.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, mine is Dissolve by Absolute Facto. So I don't know if you've heard that one, but it's an older hit from 2021. But it's a jam. It's got a it's a alt rock. It's a larger pop alt rock song, but got to get a little. I want to watch me dissolve slowly. That's it's a good one. It probably was planted on Sunday on my hangover. So, but AJ, we appreciate you sharing that and sharing a little bit about your music, and look forward to seeing the things come through this year. And if you're in the Columbus, Ohio area or anywhere, check him out. We can check him out on Spotify, follow him on Instagram. We'll have his stuff linked below. And check out AJ. He's got some good stuff coming out. You got to go listen to When You're Rich and Famous, go listen to Midnight, Egomaniac, get hyped up for more music coming from him.
Awesome. I really appreciate the conversation, Grant. This has been amazing.
Yeah, of course, man. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.